The crimson sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows through the twisted metal wreckage as Zara Threnks crawled through the debris field. Her silver-blue skin was streaked with dark blood, both her own and that of fallen comrades. The Nethys Empire's assault on the human mining colony had failed spectacularly, and now she was alone. Her squad leader had made the choice without hesitation when the human reinforcements arrived. "You're wounded and slowing us down," Commander Vex had snarled through his breathing apparatus. "Stay hidden until extraction, if it ever comes." They had vanished into the sulphurous mists, leaving her with a broken communication device and a deep gash across her ribcage. Zara pressed herself against the hull of a destroyed transport, listening to the steady footsteps approaching her position. Human soldiers were conducting a sweep of the area. She gripped her energy blade tighter, though she knew she was in no condition to fight. Her people had always taught her that humans were ruthless savages who showed no mercy to prisoners. The footsteps stopped just around the corner from her hiding spot. She held her breath, her heart pounding so loudly she was certain the human would hear it. Then a voice spoke, softer than she expected. "I know you're there," the human said in surprisingly clear Nethys dialect. "I can see the blood trail. You're hurt pretty bad." Zara remained silent, calculating her odds. Her blade could probably penetrate human armor at close range, but she was weakening from blood loss. The footsteps resumed, coming closer. "I'm not going to hurt you," the voice continued. "I'm a medic. Let me help." When Marcus Henderson rounded the corner, he wasn't what Zara expected. Instead of the hulking brute from propaganda images, she saw a lean man with kind brown eyes and medical supplies in his hands rather than weapons. His armor bore the Red Cross symbol of a field medic. "Please," he said, keeping his distance but extending his hands peacefully. "You're losing a lot of blood. Without treatment, you won't last another hour." Zara studied his face, searching for deception. In her culture, offering aid to enemies was seen as weakness. Yet this human seemed genuinely concerned. "Why?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. Marcus knelt slowly, showing no threatening movements. "Because you're someone's daughter, sister, maybe mother, and because it's the right thing to do." Against every instinct screaming in her head, Zara allowed him to approach. His touch was gentle as he examined her wound, his movements professional and careful. She watched his face as he worked, noting how his brow furrowed with concentration. "This is going to sting," he warned before applying antiseptic to the gash. Zara bit back a cry of pain, refusing to show weakness. Marcus noticed her restraint and offered a small, sympathetic smile. "You're tougher than most soldiers I've treated," he said, beginning to suture the wound. "What's your name?" Zara hesitated. Names held power in her culture, but something about this human made her want to trust him. "Zara," she finally answered. "I'm Marcus," he replied, finishing the bandaging. "There's a cave system about 1/2 kilometer north. We can wait there until the patrols move on." As he helped her to her feet, Zara felt confused by his kindness. Everything she had been taught about humans was being challenged by this one man's actions. The cave Marcus led her to was larger than it appeared from the outside, with several chambers carved naturally into the rock. He guided Zara to the deepest section, where a small thermal spring provided warmth and the sound of running water would mask their voices. "You should rest," Marcus said, spreading his survival blanket on a smooth section of stone. "Your body needs time to heal." Zara settled onto the makeshift bed, still wary but grateful for the warmth. Marcus sat across from her, maintaining respectful distance while he prepared food from his emergency rations. The silence stretched between them, filled with the weight of their opposing sides in a war that had raged for 3 years. "Why did they leave you?" Marcus asked eventually, offering her half of his nutrition bar. Zara's pride flared at the question, but exhaustion made her honest. "Wounded soldiers are a liability in retreat. It's practical." She bit into the unfamiliar food, surprised to find it didn't taste terrible. Marcus shook his head. We don't leave wounded behind, ever. That's why your species is weak, Zara replied automatically, then immediately regretted the harshness when she saw the pain flicker across his features. Maybe, Marcus said quietly, but it's also why we fight so hard to protect each other. He was quiet for a moment, then added, I lost my brother in the Battle of Rigel Station, your people's attack. Zara felt something cold settle in her stomach. She had been at Rigel Station, had probably fired the shots that killed humans Marcus cared about. I was there, she admitted. Marcus looked at her for a long moment, and Zara braced herself for anger, for the mercy to end. Instead, he nodded slowly. What did you lose? The question surprised her. What? In this war? What did you lose? Zara stared at him, unused to being asked about her pain. My bondmate, Keth. He died in the first human counterattack on Nethys, Prime. They sat in silence, two enemies sharing grief. Outside, the wind began to howl as Kepler 442b's notorious electromagnetic storms approached. Marcus moved closer to check her bandages, and Zara found herself studying his face in the thermal. Spring's dim glow. And you have kind eyes, she said suddenly, then felt heat rush to her cheeks at the unexpected admission. Marcus paused in his examination, meeting her gaze. So do you. Beneath all that warrior training, you have gentle eyes. The storm hit with full force, driving them deeper into the cave system. Lightning crackled outside, and the temperature dropped rapidly. Marcus wrapped his survival blanket around both of them as they huddled near the thermal spring. This is highly irregular, Zara murmured, acutely aware of his warmth pressed against her side. Which part? Marcus asked with a slight smile. Harboring an enemy soldier or sharing body heat with her? Both, Zara replied, but she didn't pull away. As the storm raged through the night, they talked in whispers about their lives before the war. Marcus had been a teacher before enlisting as a medic. Zara had been a botanical researcher, studying the unique plant life of her home world. We're not so different, Marcus observed as dawn light began to filter into the cave. Zara wanted to argue, but the evidence was becoming hard to ignore. This human had shown her more compassion in one night than her own people had in years of service. The third day brought unexpected danger. Marcus had gone to scout their path to neutral territory when Zara heard the distinctive hiss of a thermal viper, one of Kepler 442b's most lethal predators. The creature had cornered Marcus near the cave entrance, its heated coils ready to strike. Without thinking, Zara launched herself forward, her partially healed wounds screaming in protest. She tackled Marcus aside just as the viper struck, its fangs grazing her shoulder instead of finding his neck. Rolling with the momentum, she drew her energy blade and severed the creature's head in one fluid motion. Marcus stared at her in shock as the viper's body continued to writhe. You saved my life, he said, his voice filled with wonder. Don't read too much into it, Zara replied, but her deflection felt hollow even to her. The truth was, the thought of Marcus dying had filled her with a terror she didn't understand. Marcus carefully examined the shallow bite on her shoulder. Thermal viper venom is deadly to most species. We need to treat this immediately. As he worked, Zara found herself studying the concentration on his face, the gentle way his hands moved across her skin. When he leaned closer to apply the antidote, she could smell his unique scent, distinctly human, but strangely comforting. Zara, he said softly, and when she met his eyes, she saw something that made her breath catch. Warmth, desire, and something deeper that she was afraid to name. We shouldn't, she whispered, even as she found herself leaning closer. I know, Marcus replied, his voice rough, but I can't stop thinking about you, about us. His hand came up to cup her cheek. thumb tracing the delicate scales along her jawline. Zara's eyes fluttered closed at the contact, her body responding to his touch in ways that should have been impossible between their species. "In my culture," she said, her voice barely audible, "touching faces is very intimate. It means—" "What does it mean?" Marcus asked, his forehead almost touching hers. "It means I trust you with my life, with my heart." The space between them disappeared by degrees until their lips were almost touching. Zara could feel his breath against her skin, could see the desire in his eyes, matched by her own. But at the last moment, she pulled back. "We can't," she said, though every cell in her body protested the decision. "I'm Nethys. You're human. Our people are at war." Marcus nodded, though she could see the same longing in his expression that she felt. "You're right. But Zara—" He touched her hand gently. "When I look at you, I don't see an enemy. I see someone beautiful and brave and kind. I see someone I could what?" she prompted. "Could love," he finished quietly. That night, as they prepared to leave the cave, Zara found herself watching Marcus as he slept. She had never felt this way about anyone, not even Keth. What she felt for Marcus was deeper, more complete. It terrified her. When Marcus woke to find her watching him, he smiled sleepily. "Good morning, beautiful." The endearment sent warmth flooding through her. "Marcus, what happens when we reach neutral space?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. But I know I don't want to say goodbye to you." Zara felt tears prick at her eyes, an unusual display of emotion for her warrior upbringing. "Nor I to you." On the fourth day, they encountered another group of survivors. 3 human soldiers had been separated from their unit and were making their way toward the evacuation point. When they saw Marcus traveling with Zara, their reaction was immediate and hostile. "Marcus, get away from that thing," Sergeant Collins ordered, raising his weapon. "We'll handle this." "Stand down, Collins," Marcus replied firmly, moving protectively in front of Zara. "She's under my protection. She's the enemy." Private Wells shouted, "They killed Captain Rodriguez, and you're playing house with one of them?" Zara felt Marcus tense at the mention of their fallen commander. She knew this moment would come, knew she would have to face the hatred of Marcus's people just as he would face the hatred of hers. "She saved my life," Marcus said calmly. "Twice." "It's a trick," Collins spat. "They're manipulative. She's using you." Zara stepped out from behind Marcus, showing her hands were empty of weapons. "I am Zara Threnks, formerly of the Nethys 7th Assault Squadron. I claim protection under the Geneva Accords as a prisoner of war being escorted to neutral territory." Collins laughed harshly. "Your people don't recognize the Geneva Accords." "Why should we?" "Because we're better than they are," Marcus said quietly, and the conviction in his voice made Zara's heart skip. The standoff continued for tense minutes until Wells spotted movement in the distance. "Patrol incoming. Looks like Nethys." Zara's blood ran cold as she recognized the distinctive armor configuration. It was her former squadron, and they had seen the humans. Without hesitation, she grabbed Marcus's sidearm and fired a warning shot over the approaching Nethys soldiers. "Run," she told the humans. "I'll delay them." "Like hell," Marcus replied, taking position beside her. "We stick together." The brief firefight that followed proved Zara's worst fears. When Commander Vex's voice echoed across the battlefield, it was filled with disgust. "Zara Threnks," he called out, "you stand with humans now? You are no longer Nethys." "Then I choose to be something better," she replied, firing another shot to keep them pinned down. Marcus looked at her with admiration and something deeper. "You just chose exile from your own people, for us. For me." "Yes," Zara said simply. "I did. They managed to escape, But the encounter changed everything between them. That night, as they made camp in a sheltered grove, Marcus couldn't stop looking at her. "You gave up everything," he said softly. Zara moved closer to him, there earlier, hesitation gone. "Not everything. I gained something infinitely more precious." When Marcus kissed her this time, she didn't pull away. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, then deeper as years of loneliness and the intensity of their situation overwhelmed them both. Zara's hands tangled in his hair as he pulled her closer, and for the first time since this began, she felt truly safe. "I love you," Marcus whispered against her lips. "And I love you," she replied, the words feeling natural despite everything they'd been taught about their species being incompatible. They held each other through the night, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new possibilities. The final test came at the border of neutral territory. As Marcus and Zara approached the checkpoint, they were confronted one last time by Commander Vex and her former squad. But they weren't alone. Sergeant Collins and his team had radioed ahead, and human forces were also converging on their position. "You have nowhere to run, traitor," Vex snarled at Zara. "And your pet human dies with you." Zara stepped forward, no longer the broken soldier who had been abandoned days ago. "I am no traitor to anything that matters. I choose love over war, understanding over hatred." "Weak human emotions," Vex spat. "No," Marcus said, moving to stand beside her. "The strongest human emotion, strong enough that I'm resigning my commission to be with her." The standoff might have ended in bloodshed, but the neutral zone peacekeepers arrived first. The checkpoint was international territory, and neither military force could act aggressively there. As they processed through immigration, Zara felt overwhelmed by the multicultural crowd. Humans and Nethys worked side by side here, along with dozens of other species. It was proof that coexistence was possible. "Where will we go?" she asked Marcus as they waited for their transit visas. Marcus smiled and pulled out a data pad. "Remember when you told me you used to study botany? There's a colony world called Haven that's starting a terraforming project. They need both medical personnel and botanists." Zara stared at the job listings he showed her. "They want to hire both of us?" "They want to hire a team," Marcus corrected. "Husband and wife team, specifically." Zara's heart stopped. Marcus. He knelt right there in the busy spaceport, pulling out a simple ring made from braided metal salvaged from their crashed ships. "Zara Threnks, you've shown me that love can bridge any divide. Will you marry me?" The crowd around them had gone. Quiet, humans and Nethys alike watching this unprecedented moment. Zara looked down at Marcus, this human who had saved her life, earned her trust, and won her heart. "Yes," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the terminal. "Yes, I will marry you." The cheer that went up from the mixed crowd was deafening. Humans and Nethys, who had been raised to hate each other, found themselves celebrating together. 6 months later, on Haven Colony, Zara walked through the botanical research facility she and Marcus had established together. Their work was producing hybrid plants that could thrive in multiple atmospheric conditions, proving that different species could not only coexist, but create something beautiful together. Marcus found her in the greenhouse, examining seedlings from both Earth and Nethys Prime that were somehow growing in the same soil. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Any word from the peace negotiations?" she asked. "The ambassador says our marriage has become a symbol for the talks. Other mixed couples are coming forward, proving that connection between our species is not only possible, but natural." Zara turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had changed everything. "I love you, Marcus Henderson." "And I love you, Zara." "Henderson," he replied, using her chosen human surname. Their kiss was interrupted by the gentle chime of the communication system. The peace treaty had been signed. The war that had defined both their lives was finally over. As they held each other in their greenhouse sanctuary, surrounded by the impossible beauty of two worlds growing together, Zara realized that sometimes the greatest victories came not from defeating your enemy, but from discovering they were never your enemy at all. Outside Haven Colony's dome, both Earth's sun and the Nethys homeworld star were visible in the evening sky, shining together in perfect harmony.